Hi everyone. I just wanted to make a video about what happens when you experience MCAT burnout. And this is actually a legit thing that can happen when you're studying for the exam. Perhaps you might be going at it when it comes to studying, and then all of a sudden you feel like you can't study anymore. You just feel like you don't want to do it. I've certainly had days back when I was in college and studying for the MCAT where I felt like I didn't want to study anymore. And we're going to look into some tips and advice that I have for you in order to overcome those. Let's go see them right over there. Well, here, actually. So when it comes to studying for the MCAT, personally, I've experienced plateaus and burnout, situations where I didn't want to study anymore. One of the things that I would highly suggest when it comes to studying for the exam is don't think of it as you're studying 24/7 for the MCAT, because in reality, you're really not, and you should not be. You're a human, you're not a robot. I don't care whatever the gunner at your school's name is. I don't care how much they study, because chances are, and actually I know for a fact they don't study all the time. They have to take time off. Even if they study at 2 a.m. in the morning, there's times, trust me, where they're probably goofing off and watching Facebook or Instagram reels. When it comes to studying for the MCAT, you need to incorporate real life things. It's not realistic to expect yourself to study 24/7. And as a matter of fact, I would say it's not even realistic to expect yourself to study 8 hours straight a day. My maximum amount of time that I spent when it came to getting very close to my 517 attempt was about 6 hours a day. With 6 hours a day, I made the most of that time. And then I had plenty of time afterwards to goof off, to go work out, to go play the piano, and do other hobbies I was really interested in. I had time to go out with my friends. I had time to socialize and stuff like that. It is possible while doing the MCAT exam. So that's something I really wanted to say. When it comes to burnout, perhaps you might be studying too much. Quantity isn't always better than quality, because back when I was scoring a 503, what I would do was that I would take 10 course passages a day. I remember there were several days where I did that to myself. That sounds like torture right now. Please don't do that to yourself, guys. Don't do 10 course passages a day. I would do 10 course passages a day, and then I would score very mediocrely on them. Get about like 3 or 4 out of 6 questions right on average. However, when I started studying for my 517, I would score higher, where I would only miss 1 to 2 questions per passage. Whereas when I scored a 503, I was missing like 3 to 4. I did less passages, but I prioritized the quality and the accuracy of my work rather than just doing 10 passages just cuz. Sometimes I think students confuse volume with improvement. Just because you're studying harder and doing more doesn't mean you're improving. You need to analyze your mistakes and what you're getting wrong rather than just taking 3 practice tests day after day after day without reviewing them. That is a pretty bad strategy, and that could be why you are encountering burnt out as well as a plateau in your scores, which I have experienced in the past and I've learned the hard way. Chances are it's because you're studying too much and not prioritizing other things in life like you should. You need to eat, you need to sleep, you need to work out, you need to have time off, you need to socialize with your friends and family. You need that as a regular human being, regardless of how busy you are. Second, chances are you're probably not reviewing your mistakes and you're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. The definition of insanity is not going crazy. As a matter of fact, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, yet expecting a different result. That right there is crazy, because nothing's going to change if you do the same thing. And this not only applies to the MCAT, it applies to all areas of life, whatever it be. In short, you need to have a balanced life, because if you're studying for the MCAT 24/7, chances are your focus goes down. This brings the 80-20 rule into application. For those of you who don't know what that is or have never heard of it, essentially it goes as this, where the 80-20 rule applies to many areas in life. For example, 80% of your time studying is probably spent goofing off. You probably don't learn that much in that 80% of your time. However, in the small 20% of that time, that's where the real learning happens. So the rule states that 20% of the time is where 80% of the learning is happening. And in 80% of the time, that's where 20% of the learning is happening. Basically, a good portion of your study time is probably not that effective. So it would be best to shorten the study time and make it way more effective. And one way in which I was able to do this was by using Pomodoro timers. Pomodoro timers are really, really useful and really helpful, because you would have the timer run typically for 25 minutes. Then you would be forced to take a 5-minute break. This cycle would happen 3 or 4 times until you are forced to take a 2-hour break. It's beautiful because it uses breaks to your advantage. Neuroscientists say that the brain cannot function on very intense tasks for more than an hour. After an hour, you would need about like a 10 to 15 minute break. The Pomodoro method uses this to its advantage. and it's a very useful thing to do when it comes to studying. In a future video, as a heads up and as a spoiler, I will make a Pomodoro timer that you guys can follow along and use it to hopefully study most effectively. In the meantime, keep taking your breaks, keep having a balanced life while studying for the MCAT, and don't give up. I'm Josh. The MCAT is hard, the MCAT's important, and I'll see you later.